Night never arrives suddenly. It drifts in gently, the way a soft breeze slips between tall grasses at the edge of a meadow. One moment, the world is warmed by the last gold of day. The next, everything begins to dim into a soothing, honey-colored hush. And somewhere beneath that fading light, there is a rhythm so small, so steady, that most people never notice it. Yet it has pulsed through meadows, orchards, riverbanks, and wild gardens for millions of years. It is the rhythm of a bee. Tonight, we slow down enough to feel it. Welcome to sleepy nature sleep, where the wild grows soft and curiosity becomes calm. Tonight, let your thoughts follow the rhythm of the earth, your breathing settle like evening wind, and your mind wander gently through the quiet wild. You've arrived in a place where the ordinary becomes soothing, where even the hum of tiny wings can ease your mind into stillness. If these slow, gentle nature journeys help you rest, feel free to leave a quiet footprint, a like, a comment, or simply a return visit whenever you need peace. And if you choose to support these calm explorations by subscribing, know that it helps this little corner of calm continue to grow. Now, imagine a meadow drifting toward twilight. The air is warm but softening. Petals begin to fold, shadows lengthen, and the last scents of the day rise like a sleepy sigh from the earth. Beside a cluster of wildflowers, purple, yellow, white, a single bee makes her final circle of the evening. Her wings hum gently, not with urgency, but with a familiar rhythm, a practiced rhythm, the well-worn rhythm of a life lived in small loops of purpose. She lands lightly on a blossom, collects a final sip of nectar, not rushed, not strained, then lifts back into the air as if carried by the soft glow of dusk. This is her world, simple, golden, unwavering, a world where every action is a thread stitched into the larger fabric of the meadow's peace. Tonight, we will follow her through that world, through sunlit petals and quiet hives, through instinctive dances and secret languages of scent, through the cycles of day, season, and life that shape her gentle existence. Take a slow breath. Let your shoulders soften. And as the night settles deeper into the meadow, we begin our quiet, unhurried journey into the peaceful rhythm of a bee's simple life. Every journey begins with a question, not a loud one, not the kind that demands an answer, but the kind that lingers softly, like the scent of a flower long after you've stepped away from it. Tonight, our question is simple, and yet deep in the way nature often is. What can a tiny life teach us about purpose? It is a question tucked beneath petals, hidden between blades of grass, and carried in the quiet hum of wings that rarely stop moving. Most of us pass by bees without noticing more than a flicker of motion, or a small buzzing note in the background. But the meadow sees her. The flowers see her. The seasons, the soil, the trees, the fruit, all of them feel the presence of this small, determined creature. Purpose is often described as grand, complex, or monumental. But in the natural world, purpose is usually something much quieter. It is embedded in instinct, repetition, and harmony, the gentle weaving together of countless tiny moments. For the bee, that purpose is not questioned. It simply is. She wakes, she warms her wings, she follows the sun, she visits the blossoms that call to her, and she returns home each evening with the steady satisfaction of having lived her tiny part well. Tonight, as you listen, you might begin to feel the edges of that question unfolding inside you. What if purpose doesn't need to be chased? What if purpose is not hidden far away, but waiting in the softness of your everyday motions? The bee's life is simple, yes, but not shallow. Simple things can be profound. A single sip of nectar may seem insignificant, yet it becomes honey that lasts through winter. A dusting of pollen on her legs may go unnoticed, yet it becomes a new flower next year. Her small loops across the meadow, repeated hundreds of times, shape entire landscapes without her ever needing to understand the scope of her impact. And so, the question deepens. If a tiny creature can shape the world by simply being itself, what might you be shaping without even noticing? There is a calmness in this thought, a loosening of pressure. The bee never rushes into meaning. She creates it gently, through motion, rhythm, and presence. She doesn't force her place in the world. She exists, and that is enough. As you rest deeper into this night's journey, imagine the question settling lightly across your thoughts, like a petal landing on still water. Let it drift wherever it wishes. Let it soften your breath. And soon, as the meadow opens before us, we'll step quietly into the world where her purpose unfolds. Before we follow the bee, we need to see the world the way she sees it, not from above, not as a landscape mapped on paper, but from within. Picture a meadow at the edge of day. Its colors soften under the dimming light, gold melting into amber, green cooling into dusk blue. The air holds the warmth of the day, but carries a quiet promise of evening. Every wildflower has its own tiny weight and fragrance, and every blade of grass sways with the slight, patient rhythm of the wind. For the bee, this is not scenery. It is home. It is history, memory, nourishment, and navigation all at once. Move your awareness down, lower than human height, lower than a child's reach, until you're just inches above the ground. This is where the bee lives her entire life. The meadow becomes a forest of stems, a labyrinth of scent, a galaxy of color patterns visible only to her eyes. What looks like a single patch of flowers to us is a sprawling city of opportunity to her. Bees do not wander aimlessly. They glide with intention, guided by cues we rarely notice. A shift in temperature tells her when nectar is richest. A glimmer of ultraviolet marks a bloom ready to offer its sweetness. A faint chemical whisper in the air points her toward a flower visited earlier by another sister. The meadow moves with these signals: light, scent, electricity, vibrations, each of them creating a kind of map only a bee is equipped to read. And the beauty of this map is that it is always changing. Blossoms open, fade, renew. Wind shapes the pathways. Seasons redraw the boundaries. Yet the bee, shaped by millions of years of adaptation, finds her place within this shifting world with quiet, unwavering confidence. There is something soothing in imagining this viewpoint, a world where distractions fall away, where the vastness of life shrinks into a manageable field of gentle tasks and rewards. For the bee, life unfolds one blossom at a time. No pressure, no future to worry about, no past to regret, just the next flower, the next warm current of air, the next return home. As you breathe slowly, imagine the meadow unfolding around you in this smaller, softer scale. Let the blades of grass become towering pillars. Let each petal feel like a landing pad designed just for tiny feet. Let the hum of distant wings become the softest soundtrack to the evening. This is the world before us now, a world simple enough to feel peaceful and rich enough to hold endless wonder. Soon, we will meet the bee at dawn as she begins her gentle work. Morning arrives quietly in the meadow, long before the sun is fully visible. The air cools just enough to hold dew on the petals, and a faint silver light stretches across the horizon. Inside the hive, tucked within the warm chambers of wax, our bee begins to stir. A bee does not wake with haste. She starts with stillness, allowing her body to warm gradually, absorbing heat from the cluster of sisters around her. Bees are sensitive to temperature, and without warmth, her muscles cannot power her wings. So, before she can fly, she vibrates her wing muscles in gentle pulses, not enough to lift her, just enough to bring life back into the tiny engine inside her thorax. Slowly, the hive brightens with the filtered glow of dawn. The sound is soft, a low, steady murmur of thousands of sisters waking in their own time, not rushed, not chaotic. A collective rising. When she steps into the early light, the meadow is fresh and quiet. This is her favorite moment, the world not yet heated by the sun, blossoms still cool to the touch, and scents of overnight nectar drifting like silent invitations. She begins her day the same way she ends it, with a small test of her wings, a few delicate beats, a stretch forward, a lift into the air that feels less like effort and more like instinct. The first flight of the morning is always unhurried. She circles the hive once, taking in the angle of the sun. She calibrates herself, using light, memory, and an internal clock so precise it rivals any human instrument. This calibration sets the tone for her entire day. It is her compass, her orientation, her promise that she will always find her way back. As she glides toward the meadow, droplets of dew shimmer beneath her like a cluster of tiny stars. The flowers open slowly in response to the growing warmth, revealing colors the human eye can barely imagine. In ultraviolet light, patterns emerge, arrows, rings, and signals that guide her gently toward the richest blooms. Her wings catch the early rays, turning translucent with hints of gold and blue. For a moment, she is just a floating spark in the cool morning air. This first light, this first flight, this tiny beginning, is the quiet heartbeat of her day. No hurry, no pressure, only purpose whispered softly through instinct and sunlight. Tonight, as we drift deeper into her world, we follow her to her first landing of the day. To us, a meadow may appear as a scatter of blossoms, beautiful, yes, but simple. To a bee, it is an intricate, layered world of scent, chemistry, and invisible signals. She navigates this world the way we might follow road signs or familiar landmarks, except her signs are woven from fragrance itself. A bee's sense of smell is extraordinary. Her antennae are lined with thousands of microscopic sensors capable of detecting chemical cues so faint they dissolve instantly for anything without her sensitivity. These scents create a shifting map across the meadow, one she reads with astonishing clarity. She hovers above a patch of flowers, tasting the air with her antennae. A flower visited recently by another bee smells different, its nectar slightly diminished, its signals softened. A bloom untouched since dawn carries a brighter, richer scent, almost like a freshly written note waiting for a reader. Every species of flower carries its own signature fragrance, and each fragrance changes throughout the day. Morning scents are crisp, cool, and slightly sweet. Midday scents intensify with heat. Evening scents mellow into something warm and dusky, lingering like a lullaby. The bee glides slowly, sampling each shift in the breeze. To her, this is not decision-making. It is instinct, the gentle leaning of her body toward whatever the air tells her is most promising. She lands on a blossom shaped like a small purple cup. Its scent is rich and inviting, a sign that nectar is waiting deep inside. As she collects it, the flower leaves a faint chemical message on her body. This message will tell the next bee, "Someone has already visited me. I may have less to offer." She is not territorial. She is not competitive. The meadow works only because the bees share information freely, silently, without ever needing to meet. Her world is communication without words, direction without maps, and trust without thought. When she leaves the flower, she carries more than nectar. She carries knowledge, a sense of where the meadow is richest today, where the blossoms are waking earliest, where the sweetest paths lie. In this way, the scented map of flowers grows with every flight she takes, a living guidebook written not on paper, but on wind, petals, and instinct. As you breathe gently now, imagine the meadow from her point of view, aromas drifting like ribbons, each one an invitation, each one a quiet signpost, pointing her toward what the day has prepared for her. This is the map she follows, a map you can feel, if only in imagination, a map she reads with ease. There is a moment, just after the bee lands on a blossom, when everything becomes still. Her wings fold softly against her body, her tiny feet grip the petal with careful precision, and the world around her blurs into a gentle haze. Only the flower remains clear, its scent, its warmth, its offering. Gathering nectar is not hurried work. It is patient, almost ceremonial. The bee leans forward, extending her proboscis, a slender, flexible tongue perfectly shaped for slipping deep into narrow floral wells. The nectar she seeks is not simply sweetness. It is energy, fuel, life in liquid form. Each sip she takes will be carried inside her, transformed slowly through enzymes into something extraordinary. Honey. But here, in this moment, none of that matters. She is simply following a rhythm she knows instinctively. Land, taste, sip, pause, lift. A single flower does not provide much nectar. Tiny rewards, tiny steps, and yet these small collections, multiplied over hundreds of visits, become the stored sunlight that sustains her entire colony. As she drinks, pollen brushes against the hairs along her body, fine, delicate bristles designed exactly for this task. She doesn't intend to pollinate. She doesn't even know she's doing it. But every movement she makes becomes part of a larger dance between flower and bee, between life and renewal. The nectar flows slowly up her proboscis, and with each drop, she pauses, as though savoring not the flavor, but the fulfilling alignment of instinct and purpose. Bees cannot taste sweetness the way we do, but they can feel concentration, texture, a subtle pull of rich nectar that tells them this flower is worth memorizing. She moves with a calm efficiency, never frantic, never wasteful. A land here, a sip there, a gentle brush across the next blossom. Her loops across the meadow become lines of golden intention, threads connecting one bloom to the next. If you watch her closely, you can see that her work is not simply collection, it is communion. She responds to the flower's warmth. The flower responds to her touch. Together, they share a quiet, cyclical exchange that has shaped the world far longer than humans have existed to observe it. When she has taken what she needs, she lifts herself softly into the air. Her flight is heavier now, not burdensome, just full. a fullness earned through patience. As she drifts toward the next bloom, imagine your own breath moving like her flight, slow, purposeful, guided not by pressure, but by natural rhythm. In her simple work, there is something deeply soothing, a reminder that progress can be gentle, and that even the smallest steps can gather into something golden. The bee does not know it, but with every flower she touches, she performs one of the oldest and most essential dances in nature, a dance that predates civilizations, predates cities, predates nearly everything we think of as the foundation of human life, pollination. It happens quietly. A grain of pollen clings to her body, caught in the soft hairs along her legs or abdomen. She does not pause to notice. She does not need to. Her body is built for this subtle exchange. When she lands on another flower, perhaps a neighboring bloom, perhaps one several meters away, some of the pollen brushes off. A grain here, a grain there, tiny offerings delivered without ceremony. Yet each one holds the potential for new life. To the flowers, she is a messenger, a traveler connecting them to one another, a quiet carrier of possibility. This is the choreography of pollination. The bee moves, the flowers respond. The meadow renews itself through her effortless wandering. Most flowers are designed with this dance in mind. Their shapes accommodate her feet. Their colors catch her ultraviolet vision. Their petals form landing pads. Their nectar hides just deep enough to encourage the pollen to cling. Evolution writes the music, and the bee dances it without ever needing to learn the steps. As she moves from bloom to bloom, she leaves behind more than pollen. She leaves the promise of fruit, seeds, and seasons yet to come. The berries that will ripen in summer, the apples that will fall in autumn, the wildflowers that will return next spring. All of these begin with the soft brush of a bee's passing. The meadow thrives because she exists. Its colors expand because she visits. Its future unfolds because she takes flight each morning. There is something profoundly calming in this natural cooperation. Nothing is forced, nothing chased, nothing strained. It is simply a dance that happens because each part of the ecosystem trusts the other to play its role. As you let your breath move in slow waves, imagine the dance continuing across the field, a silent, golden exchange carried on a pair of wings so small you could miss them in a blink. Yet those wings sustain entire landscapes. The bee lifts once more, unaware of the legacy she leaves behind. But the meadow knows, and tonight we watch her dance continue. By midday, the meadow has shifted into a different world. Morning's gentle coolness gives way to warmth. Colors brighten, scents intensify, shadows shorten into small islands beneath each flower. For the bee, midday is a time of clarity and momentum. Her body thrives in warmth. Heat energizes her muscles and sharpens her navigation. The sun becomes both a guide and a metronome, marking her day with light she can feel even when hidden behind clouds. She flies not in straight lines but in subtle curves, adjusting constantly to the movement of the air. A small gust lifts her slightly. She compensates instinctively. A warm wave rising from the sunlit earth carries her forward. She adapts without thought. Tiny shifts become effortless corrections. Bees see the world differently than we do. To her, colors are richer, shifting under ultraviolet light. A white flower may glow with neon patterns. A blue blossom may shimmer with hidden rings. Light becomes information, guidance, an invitation. Midday brings another change. Nectar production peaks for many flowers. Heat draws sweetness upward, making blossoms more generous. The bee knows this not through thought, but through the subtle cues she reads in the air. She hovers over a patch of yellow blooms, warm, bright, open. The petals curve outward, offering easy landing. The scent is bold, drifting on the rising heat. She lands, takes a slow sip, and feels the grounding reassurance of purpose flowing through her body. This is her prime hour, the moment of abundance. Yet, even in abundance, she is never greedy. Nature does not design greed into creatures this small. She takes what she needs. She moves on when a flower signals that it has little left to offer. Birdsong echoes faintly across the meadow. Insects hum in overlapping rhythms. The wind sighs through the tall grasses. All these sounds blend into a soft midday chorus, but her focus remains steady, tuned to the frequencies of scent and sunlight. Her midday world is warm, vibrant, and full of motion. And yet, within all this noise and brightness, she moves with calm precision, never frantic, never overwhelmed. Her rhythm does not change, purposeful, steady, simple. As you breathe gently now, imagine the warmth of midday around you, not the intensity of heat, but the enveloping comfort of sunlight resting on your shoulders. Let the calm focus of the bee's world settle into your thoughts, softening the edges of the day. Soon, the light will begin to shift again, and her world will change with it. But for now, she gathers, she glides, and she stays attuned to the quiet instructions of the sun. A bee's wings are not just tools for flight, they are instruments of communication. The soft hum we hear as she passes is only a fraction of the language she speaks. Beneath the surface of that sound lies a subtle system of vibrations and frequencies that guide her through the world. Her wings beat around 200 times per second, not loudly, not forcefully, but steadily, like a tiny metronome keeping time with the meadow. These wing beats create vibrations she can feel through her legs, her antennae, and her entire body. The ground trembles faintly beneath her. Leaves shiver. Petals respond. Other bees sense her presence not just by sight, but through this invisible pulse that tells them she is near. Inside the hive, this language becomes even more meaningful. A returning forager will vibrate her wings in specific rhythms to share information. The distance to a flower patch, the direction relative to the sun, the richness of nectar waiting to be gathered. This famous waggle dance, often studied, rarely fully understood, is not simply instructions, it is reassurance. A quiet message. There's abundance, you may go safely. The bee does not think of her communication as language, but that is what it becomes to us. A vocabulary of hums, a grammar of vibrations, a syntax of movement and direction. When she hovers near a flower, her wings adjust with micro movements so subtle they blur into transparency. A slight tilt here, a narrowing of angle there. These minute shifts tell her where the flower's landing spot is strongest, where the air pressure is calmest, where she can land with the least resistance. Even the vibrations of other creatures guide her. A grasshopper flicking through the stems, a bird casting a shadow overhead, the breeze trembling with the wings of distant sisters. Nature is full of signals, and her wings help her interpret them all. As you listen to this quiet world, imagine the hum of her wings, not as noise, but as a soft, repeating lullaby, steady enough to calm, gentle enough to soothe. rhythmic enough to slip into your breath. Her wings are small, delicate, easily damaged by time. Yet while they last, they speak a language older than words. In each beat lies trust. In each vibration lies connection. In each soft hum lies a reminder that communication can be simple, steady, and soothing. Soon, her wings will guide her back toward the hive. But before that, she continues her journey across the meadow, carried by the quiet music she creates. In a world as large and complex as the meadow, the bee is small, fragile even. She weighs less than a raindrop, lives only a few weeks, and spends most of her days looping the same familiar paths. And yet, her presence holds the ecosystem together in ways she'll never understand. Every flower she visits strengthens the bonds between species. Plants depend on her to reproduce. Birds depend on those plants to nest and feed. Small mammals rely on seeds and fruits that exist because she carried pollen between blooms. Even the soil, rich and dark beneath the grass, benefits from the cycle she helps maintain. The bee is a thread in a vast tapestry. Tiny, yes, but impossibly important. In her world, scale does not define significance. A creature does not need to be large to shape the environment. She does not need strength to support the meadow. Her impact comes through consistency, cooperation, and countless tiny motions. As she flies, she is surrounded by an orchestra of life. Crickets calling from the shadows, dragonflies slicing through sunbeams, birds gliding in wide arcs overhead. She notices none of it consciously. Her attention remains close to the ground, but every movement she makes contributes to their survival. And in return, the meadow supports her. The flowers offer nectar. The sun offers warmth. The hive offers shelter. The air offers guidance. This reciprocity is what makes ecosystems feel almost like living minds, every part aware, responsive, connected, even without intention. Imagine standing in the meadow for a moment. Imagine the gentle sway of the grasses, the hum of insects, the rustle of wings. Feel how everything seems to move with an underlying order, a slow and patient rhythm that holds the landscape together. Our bee glides through this world with complete trust, not trust in thought, but trust in design. She moves because she was born to move. She gathers because she was born to gather. She cooperates because her biology teaches her to exist harmoniously within the whole. There is comfort in this understanding that being small does not mean being insignificant, and that purpose does not need to be loud to be meaningful. As she rests briefly on a stem, catching her breath, the meadow shifts softly around her. The sun drifts lower. Shadows lengthen, and the ecosystem continues to breathe, slow, steady, alive. Soon her day will begin to wind down. But first, she must find her way home. As the sun begins drifting toward late afternoon, the bee senses a subtle shift in the world around her. The light warms into a deeper gold. The air cools just slightly, and the flowers begin to signal that their offerings are gently slowing. She has visited dozens, perhaps hundreds, of blossoms today, and now her instincts guide her back toward the place where her day began. Home. The hive is never lost to her. Even if she flies several kilometers from its entrance, she can always find her way back. She reads the angle of the sun against the horizon. She remembers the pattern of scents in the air, each tree, each patch of flowers, each warm curve of earth whispering a direction. She senses the magnetic field of the planet itself. a soft compass hidden deep within her small body. To her, navigation is not a puzzle, it is rhythm. She tilts her wings, catching a warm current. Her body vibrates slightly as she corrects her course. The meadow stretches beneath her, glowing with the colors she has come to know intimately, each bloom now touched by the work of her day. As she flies, the world grows quieter. The midday bustle of insects softens, birdsong wanes, shadows deepen into long blue threads across the ground. For a bee, returning home is more than a physical act. It is emotional in a way humans rarely consider. Inside the hive, thousands of sisters create a hum that feels familiar, safe, grounding. The temperature is warm, held steady by their collective bodies. The air is fragrant with wax, honey, and the subtle comfort of community. Approaching the hive, she slows her wings. The entrance is busy, as it always is, but never chaotic. Bees move in and out with practiced flow, each one knowing her place, her rhythm, her role. She lands gently at the threshold. Her antennae brush another bees in passing, a greeting, brief and instinctive. She steps inside, carrying with her the sweetness she gathered from the meadow. As she moves deeper, the familiar darkness wraps around her. The hive hum rises like a soft chorus, welcoming her back into its unified warmth. She does not understand words, but she understands belonging. Her day has been simple, loops through flowers, gentle work, steady flight. But her return home adds a layer of meaning. The hive depends on her. She depends on the hive. In this mutual support, there is a wisdom far older than thought. Home is not where she rests alone. Home is where thousands breathe, move, and live as one. As you breathe in now, imagine that same soft feeling of returning, the sense of arriving, the comfort of being held, the quiet assurance that you are part of something gently supporting you. Stepping deeper into the hive feels like entering an entirely different world, one shaped not by light, but by warmth, scent, and vibration. The outside meadow is filled with bright color and movement. In contrast, the hive is dim, hushed, and intimately alive. The temperature inside is carefully regulated. Thousands of bees cluster together, generating heat through subtle vibrations of their muscles. This warmth keeps the brood, tiny developing bees, safe and thriving. It also keeps the honey pliable, allowing it to be processed and stored. Our forager moves through narrow corridors of wax. Her feet touch hexagonal walls crafted with mathematical precision, each cell built by workers who exude wax from their bodies like soft, living sculptures. She brushes past sisters who tend the babies, sisters who store nectar, sisters who guard the entrance. Every bee has a role, and every role shifts with age, ensuring the hive adapts fluidly to its needs. The sound inside is soothing, a low, steady hum. Not loud, but constant, like the purr of a living heartbeat. Each vibration carries meaning, a warning, a celebration, a coordination of tasks. For our bee, this hum is home. It is the sound she has known since the moment she emerged into the world. She moves toward another worker bee and shares the nectar gathered from her day. This exchange is delicate, almost ceremonial. She passes it mouth to mouth, and enzymes in their bodies will slowly transform it into honey. This sweet substance will feed the colony during leaner times, especially winter. Every sip she carried contributes to the hive's survival. In one corner, nurse bees tend to larvae resting in tiny wax cradles. They feed them royal jelly, pollen and nectar, ensuring that the next generation will inherit the rhythm of this complex, cooperative world. Everything here is connected, not through thought, not through emotion as humans know it, but through instinctive unity. The hive is a single organism made of thousands of bodies, each acting as a necessary cell within the whole. Our forager pauses to rest. In the dim warmth, she folds her wings and lets the hum surround her. The hive breathes around her, slowly, steadily, safely. To be inside the heart of the hive is to be embraced by purpose, every movement meaningful, every life intertwined, every vibration a reassurance that she belongs to something larger than herself. This is the world she returns to each night, a world that holds her gently and asks only that she move in harmony. In the center of the hive, surrounded by devoted attendants, lives the queen, the quiet, steady presence who shapes the mood and direction of the entire colony. She is not a ruler in the grand human sense. She does not command. She does not instruct. She does not dominate. Instead, her influence is chemical, soft, constant, and deeply comforting. Her pheromones drift through the hive like an invisible thread of unity. To the bees, this scent means stability. It means all is well. It means the colony is whole and healthy. The queen moves slowly, attended by workers who feed her, groom her, and clear paths before her. Her body is longer than theirs, her movements deliberate. Where she goes, a subtle calm follows. Her presence tells the hive that life can continue as it always has, in the careful cadence of the natural world. She lays the eggs that will become the next generation, hundreds each day. Each egg is placed with meticulous care into a wax cell, and workers immediately begin tending to them. Her role is singular, and yet it supports every part of the hive's future. The forager we follow does not interact with the queen often. Their worlds are different, one outside, one inside. But she feels the queen's influence in the air, in the cohesion of the hive's movements, in the soft certainty that her work matters. There are moments when the queen's pheromones fade slightly, perhaps because she's aging, or because the colony has grown large. In these moments, the hive shifts. Workers become restless. New queens may be reared. Tension rises without anger, just a deep biological sense that something must change. But tonight, the queen is strong. Her scent flows through the hive in warm waves. Her presence keeps the colony centered, focused, united. A queen's strength is not measured by force, but by steadiness. She represents continuity, harmony, direction. As our forager rests after her day outside, the queen remains calmly at work in the center, the anchor around which thousands of small lives revolve. Her influence is gentle, but profound. A reminder that leadership in nature often whispers instead of shouting. Tonight, as you settle deeper into rest, imagine that same soft sense of direction, the quiet assurance that you are part of something steady and warm, something that holds its shape even in the darkest hours. Within the hive, there are bees whose work resembles the craftsmanship of ancient artisans. These are the wax builders, the sculptors, the architects, the quiet creators of the geometric world in which the colony thrives. Wax building is slow, delicate work. It begins inside the bodies of young worker bees who produce flakes of wax from glands beneath their abdomen. These flakes are thin, almost translucent, like tiny whispers of light. The builders collect them with their legs, soften them with their mandibles, and shape them with extraordinary precision. Hexagons, rows upon rows of perfect, repeating hexagons. Humans have marveled at this pattern for thousands of years. It is mathematically efficient, strong, space-saving, and capable of holding honey, brood, or pollen. Yet the bees craft it without rulers, without calculations, without planning. They create it because instinct tells them this shape is right. An instinct, shaped by time and nature, rarely makes mistakes. Inside the hive, the dim warmth gives the builders the perfect conditions to sculpt. They work side by side, touching feelers, communicating through brief vibrations. One bee adds a small curve to a cell wall. Another smooths it. One extends a chamber by a fraction of a millimeter. Another inspects it and makes a subtle adjustment. Their collaboration is seamless, effortless, almost meditative. The forager moves past them now, pausing to appreciate, not consciously, but through the subtle recognition of scent and vibration, the artistry around her. She brushes her antennae against a newly made cell, sensing its freshness. The wax is warm, still pliable, molded only moments ago by the careful mouths of her sisters. Every cell holds a future, food for the colony, cradle for the young, foundation for generations. The hive is a living cathedral, built grain by grain, flake by flake, breath by breath. No bee works alone. No bee claims ownership. Their craft is communal, their architecture an offering to the continuity of the colony. There is a softness to this craft, a rhythm of repeated motion, a quiet devotion to shape and structure. As you breathe slowly now, imagine the gentle symmetry of their work, the steady construction of small, perfect spaces, the warm wax under tiny feet, the hive expanding bit by bit through patient collaboration. In their slow craft, there's a reminder that beauty can come from repetition, that strength can come from gentleness, that entire worlds can be built from the smallest of efforts. A forager's life unfolds in cycles, predictable, steady, calming in its simplicity. Every day begins with dawn and ends with dusk, and between those two bookends lies a rhythm built on instinct, repetition, and trust in the natural world. As the sun rises, she warms herself, tests her wings, and launches into the meadow with quiet determination. She does not question her role. She does not worry about the tasks ahead. Her day is guided by the needs of the hive and the cues of the world around her. Her first destination is often the closest patch of flowers, one she remembers from days before. Bees have excellent spatial memory. Patterns of color, scent, and sunlight linger in her mind like familiar landmarks. She knows which blossoms open earliest, which are rich in nectar after rain, and which fields call to her after warm nights. Throughout the morning, she moves in wide loops, visiting blossoms, collecting nectar, brushing against pollen. Each landing is gentle, each takeoff is steady. She conserves energy by letting the breeze carry her whenever it can. As the day warms, her flight patterns shift. She travels farther, explores new areas, reads new signals in the air. Sometimes she meets other foragers from her hive, and their antennae touch briefly, a greeting, a confirmation that the meadow is thriving. Sometimes she crosses paths with bees from other colonies, and they exchange nothing but distance, respectful, neutral, peaceful. By midday, she's at her strongest. Her muscles warm, her wings steady, her movements full of confidence. But the afternoon brings subtle changes. Some flowers close early, some fade in the heat, some shift their offerings. She adapts without hesitation, adjusting her route with quiet intelligence. Late in the day, she grows heavier with nectar. Her movements slow slightly, not from exhaustion, but from fulfillment. Her purpose has been met. Her loops across the meadow have gathered enough sweetness to feed her hive. As dusk draws near, she senses the world dimming. The breeze cools, the scents soften, the colors deepen into shadow. It is time to return. Her flight home is unhurried. The entrance of the hive glows faintly with the movement of other returning foragers. She lands, shares her nectar, and lets the warm hum of the hive wrap around her. Her day ends where it began, among sisters, among wax, among the deep living heartbeat of the colony. There is serenity in this routine, a reminder that life does not always need to be reinvented. Sometimes it only needs to be lived in steady, peaceful cycles. Inside the hive, communication flows not through sound as humans know it, but through vibration, subtle, rhythmic pulses that gently travel through wax, air, and bodies. These vibrations are not random. They are messages, signals, whispers of information passed between sisters who rely on connection more than sight. When our forager returns from the meadow, she is greeted by a cluster of bees who touch her antenna, taste her scent, and feel the trembling in her body. Every vibration tells a part of her story, where she traveled, how far she went, how rich the flowers were, and how urgently the colony should collect from those blossoms. One of the most beautiful forms of communication in the hive is the waggle dance. It is perhaps nature's quietest and yet most elegant map. The forager begins by vibrating her body in a straight line, her wings held at a very specific angle. This angle corresponds to the direction of the food source relative to the sun. Her tempo, how long she vibrates, tells the distance. Her enthusiasm, the vigor of her trembling, tells the quality of the nectar waiting in the field. This is not dance in the human sense. It is instinct turned into geometry. The hive is dark, yet every bee watching understands perfectly. They feel the direction through her movements. They sense the urgency through her tremors. They memorize her rhythm and convert it into flight paths across the meadow. Vibrations also serve quieter purposes. A gentle buzz can calm restless bees. A soft tremor signals that brood need feeding. A rapid pulse warns of danger. A low, drawn-out vibration invites others to warm the hive or fan their wings to cool it. And beyond these practical messages, vibrations create atmosphere, a shared hum that unites thousands into one collective rhythm. Our forager, having danced her message, rests for a moment in the middle of this symphony. She feels the vibrations passing through her legs and antennae, the tremors of sisters landing, the pulses of new information moving through the cluster, the faint hum of the queen's steady influence. To exist in the hive is to exist inside a living heartbeat. To communicate is to tremble softly. To be understood is to be felt rather than heard. As you breathe slowly now, imagine the hive's vibrations as a soft, continuous lull, warm, resonant, and deeply soothing. Each tremor a reminder that connection can be gentle, communication can be quiet, messages can be felt, not spoken. In a world that often demands noise to be heard, the bees whisper, and somehow they understand everything. For a bee, the sun is more than just a source of warmth. It is a compass, a clock, and a constant guide that shapes every moment of her day. She does not look at the sun the way humans do. She sees it as a shifting point of reference, a glowing anchor in the sky that tells her where she is and where she must go. Her internal clock is astonishingly precise. It adjusts not only to the time of day, but also to tiny shifts in the sun's position throughout the seasons. This internal timing, combined with her ability to sense polarized light, allows her to navigate even when clouds hide the sky. When the sun rises, she feels its angle. When it climbs, she calibrates. When it begins its slow descent, she feels the meadow cooling beneath its fading warmth. Each flight she takes is made with an awareness of this constant motion. If a flower patch lies east of the hive, she flies with the glow behind her in the morning and in front of her in the afternoon. She corrects her path instinctively, minute adjustments that keep her oriented in ways we still struggle to fully understand. Bees even compensate for the sun's movement while dancing inside the hive. If the sun moves across the sky, while a forager is explaining the location of flowers, she adjusts her dance to match the sun's new angle, ensuring that her sisters receive accurate information. To her, the sun is never still. It is a song with a slow, steady rhythm, a rhythm she follows without doubt. In the meadow, light creates patterns across flowers. Some blossoms open fully, only when sunlight touches them. Others shift their scent throughout the day, inviting her at certain hours and closing themselves gently when the sun dips low. The bee senses all of this. She moves through gradients of warmth, light, and shadow, guided by cues so subtle humans would never feel them, but she feels them all. As the afternoon progresses, the sun softens into a warm amber glow. Her body warms with it, and her final flights of the day become wrapped in serene light. The world seems slower now, calmer. As though preparing for the rest she will soon take inside the hive. As you breathe deeply, imagine yourself following that same slow arc, moving with the day rather than against it, letting the light guide your moments gently. The sun sets for her just as it does for us, and in that shared rhythm, there is quiet comfort. To our eyes, flowers are colorful, fragrant expressions of beauty. To a bee, they are far more intricate, complex structures full of hidden cues, visible only through her specialized senses. The world of flowers is full of invitations meant for bees, butterflies, and other pollinators. Each species has evolved its own subtle signals, woven into patterns the human eye cannot see. Many flowers broadcast ultraviolet markings, radiant, glowing guides that form arrows, circles, and streaks pointing toward the nectar inside. To a bee, these patterns shine like airport runway lights, guiding her to the exact place she needs to land. A daisy, for example, appears simple to us: white petals, yellow center. But to a bee, the center glows with ultraviolet patterns, a pulsing target beckoning her inward. A violet holds secret stripes she follows like a map. A sunflower center is a perfect spiral of UV bright pathways. A buttercup gleams like liquid gold under her vision. Flowers also speak through scent. Some bloom with rich, sugary aromas. Others produce subtle chemical signatures only bees can detect. The scents change with temperature, with time of day, even with the flower's need for pollination. If a blossom has already been visited, it may dim its aroma. If it is bursting with nectar, it intensifies its fragrance, sending a gentle chemical call across the air. Color plays its part as well. Bees see blues and purples with particular clarity. Yellows glow vibrantly. Reds appear dark and muted. Most bees ignore red blossoms entirely. The architecture of flowers is equally intentional. Petals angled to support tiny feet. Nectar wells shaped for her proboscis. Pollen placed strategically so she brushes against it with each visit. Every flower is a conversation piece, designed over millions of years to collaborate with her. When the bee lands, she does not analyze these invitations. She simply responds. Her body knows where to step, where to sip, where to rest. The flower knows what to offer. Together, they create a partnership so seamless it feels like choreography. Watching her move from bloom to bloom is like watching someone read a language written in light and fragrance, a language we can only imagine. As you breathe gently now, picture the meadow shimmering in ultraviolet hues, each flower glowing softly, inviting her forward. This is her world, a world where every petal has meaning, every color has intention, every scent has purpose. In the secret invitations of flowers, she finds her path, and we find a quiet sense of wonder. As the day matures and the sun begins its slow descent, the meadow transforms once more. Shadows stretch across the ground, long and gentle, turning bright spaces into soft pockets of coolness. For the bee, these shifting patterns signal that her window of activity is drawing to a close. The heat of midday fades. The colors soften into warm golds and muted greens. The air grows heavier with evening scents, the earthy aroma of soil cooling, the sweet, lingering fragrance of flowers that have been warmed all day. The bee feels these changes with remarkable sensitivity. Her body detects subtle drops in temperature, signaling that nectar flow will soon diminish. Her eyes perceive shifts in light direction, helping her correct her final flights. Her antennae taste the fading sweetness in the air, telling her which blossoms are closing for the night. The meadow is not shutting down. It is simply breathing out, settling, preparing for rest. Some flowers fold their petals inward. Others darken slightly, hiding their nectar until morning. The grasses sway more slowly as the evening breeze replaces the warm currents of the day. She visits only a few more blossoms now, not out of urgency, but out of instinctive conclusion. The offerings of the meadow are winding down, and her rhythm must follow. As she hovers near a fading bloom, she seems to pause, not confused, not uncertain, just aware of the world's shift. She takes a final sip of nectar from a deep purple flower, still open in the low light. The taste is gentler now, softer than it was in midday. She brushes her legs across the blossom's pollen one last time before lifting her wings for the journey home. The meadow around her glows in the warm amber of evening. Insects begin their nighttime calls. Birds settle onto branches. A calm quietness stretches across the land. These shadowed hours bring a kind of peace, the transition between effort and rest, between the brightness of day and the stillness of night. For the bee, there is no melancholy in the ending of the day. Only acceptance, only rhythm, only the quiet certainty that she has done what she was meant to do. As you breathe slowly now, imagine the meadow around you shifting into evening, shadows lengthening, light softening, sounds fading. Let that same sense of gentle closure wash over your thoughts. Her day is nearly done. So is yours. Though her life is peaceful, the bee moves through a world full of quiet dangers, some subtle, some sudden, all of them navigated with a mix of instinct and delicate awareness. She is small, She is gentle, she is fragile, and yet she survives not through strength, but through attunement. One of her greatest threats is the wind. A strong gust can push her off course or make landing impossible. She senses shifts in pressure before they arrive, adjusting her flight path or seeking shelter among tall grass. Her wings are delicate, and she knows, without knowing, that they must be protected. Birds sometimes swoop above the meadow, scanning for insects. She reads their shadows instantly, diving downward or stilling her body against a leaf until danger passes. These moments are quick, instinctual, almost invisible to the human eye. Spiders hide among petals, waiting in silence. The bee avoids them through scent. Flowers with predators carry the faintest chemical warnings left by other creatures. She trusts these invisible signals completely, never questioning them, simply adapting her path with seamless grace. Raindrops, too, are dangerous. A single drop can weigh more than she does. She can sense moisture in the air before clouds gather, taste humidity on the breeze, and predict rainfall with remarkable accuracy. If the air thickens with the promise of a storm, she turns homeward. If the light dims too quickly, she knows the weather is shifting. If the wind changes direction abruptly, she reads it as a sign to retreat. Her fragility is not a weakness, it is a tuning fork for survival. The meadow, too, helps guide her. The flowers close when storms approach. The grasses lean in new directions. The temperature drops in subtle gradients. Nature speaks, and she listens. This is how she survives, not through force or speed, but through a deep, unwavering connection to the world around her. She feels every change. She trusts every cue. She adapts every moment. There is a lesson hidden in her delicate vigilance, that awareness can be gentle, that caution can be calm, that one can move through danger with grace rather than fear. As you inhale softly, imagine her weaving through the meadow, light, careful, alert in the quietest way. No panic, no anxiety, only presence. In the fragile art of avoiding danger, she finds safety, and in watching her, we find calm. Inside the hive, cooperation is not something taught or enforced. It simply exists, woven into every movement, every vibration, every breath shared among thousands of small bodies. The colony functions as a single living organism, with each bee serving as a cell within its vast, harmonious whole. Our forager returns from her day in the meadow, and immediately her sisters respond. Some greet her by touching antennae, tasting her scent, sensing the story of her journey. Others approach with gentle hunger, ready to receive the nectar she carries. This exchange is quiet but vital. Her offering will soon become honey, feeding the colony and sustaining the queen. Nearby, nurse bees care for the developing brood, larvae nestled inside their wax cells like tiny crescents of possibility. They feed them carefully measured blends of pollen, nectar, and royal jelly, adjusting the diet based on each larva's needs. Their movements are attentive, rhythmic, and full of instinctive tenderness. Heat-regulating bees vibrate their bodies to keep the hive warm. Ventilating bees fan their wings to circulate air, preventing the honey from fermenting. Guard bees stand at the entrance, watching for intruders with a quiet vigilance. No one commands them. No one supervises. No one questions their role. They simply act because the hive needs them to act. This unity is so seamless that the entire colony responds to changes as though sharing a single nervous system. If nectar is abundant, more foragers take flight. If brood numbers grow, nurses increase their care. If the queen weakens, the hive shifts into a gentle preparation for change. And through it all, there is no conflict, no competition, no hierarchy beyond instinct. Cooperation is their nature. The forager walks slowly through the hive now, her wings folded, her body tired in the most peaceful way. She brushes past sisters who have never left the hive and never will. Their worlds are separate yet intertwined. One gathers from the outside, the other shapes life on the inside. She finds a place to rest as the hive hum rises into a soft, collective lull. Everything moves together. Everything works in quiet concert. As you breathe gently now, imagine this harmony as a warm current, a reminder that cooperation doesn't always need words, instructions, or effort. Sometimes it emerges naturally when every part trusts the whole. Inside the hive, individuality dissolves into unity, yet each bee still matters, each motion still contributes. This is the soft cooperation of the colony, a lesson in belonging without losing oneself. Honey is more than sweetness, more than food, more than the shimmering gold we see poured into jars. It is sunlight transformed. It is hours of flight made tangible. It is the condensed essence of thousands of blossoms. For the bee, honey is survival, a precious store of energy that sustains the hive during winter, storms, and lean seasons. But the process of creating it is slow, communal, and deeply poetic. When the forager returns with nectar, she shares it mouth to mouth with a house bee. This exchange looks simple, but it is where transformation begins. The house bee adds enzymes to the nectar, breaking down its complex sugars into simpler ones. The nectar becomes thicker, warmer, almost honey, but not yet. She deposits the mixture into an empty wax cell. At this stage, it is still watery, too thin to store, too fragile to last. So the bees begin to fan their wings, dozens, sometimes hundreds, creating a gentle wind that flows across the honeycomb like a living breeze. This airflow evaporates water from the nectar, thickening it drop by drop. Hours pass, sometimes days, and slowly, the mixture becomes the golden substance we recognize. When it reaches the perfect consistency, the bees seal the cell with a wax cap, a tiny lid they mold with the tips of their mandibles. Inside that sealed chamber, the honey will keep for months, even years. Our forager walks past the rows of capped cells, sensing the familiar warmth radiating from them. Each hexagon holds the memory of flowers she once visited, sunlight she once flew beneath, and nectar she once gathered with delicate precision. Honey is liquid time, the distilled story of the meadow, the promise of future seasons, the quiet labor of countless wings. Humans value honey for its sweetness, but the bees value it for its security. It is their savings, their winter hearth, their shelter against hunger. As you imagine the honeycomb glowing softly in the dim hive light, notice how peaceful the process feels. There is no rush, no strain, no urgency, only patience, only devotion, only the slow, careful conversion of effort into nourishment. Honey reminds us that small actions, repeated steadily, can become something enduring, something rich, something beautiful, something golden. As you breathe slowly now, imagine honey's warmth seeping into your thoughts, the hum of wings, the smell of wax, the glow of stored sunlight. This is the sweetness of the hive, a sweetness gathered one gentle moment at a time. Storms arrive quickly in the meadow. One moment the sky is clear, washed in quiet blue. The next, A curtain of gray sweeps across the horizon, pulled by a wind that whispers of rain. The bee senses the shift long before the first drop falls. Her antennae taste the moisture thickening in the air. Her wings detect the increasing turbulence. Her body responds to the subtle drop in temperature. Instinct tells her, "Go home now." She changes direction instantly. Her flight grows lower, hugging the contours of the grass where the wind is gentler. The sky darkens, and the first deep rumble trembles across the meadow. Flowers close their petals as though bracing for impact. A single raindrop would be heavy enough to knock her from the air. She cannot outrun the storm, but she can outthink it, or rather, outsense it. The wind strengthens. She struggles, tiny wings beating against the growing pressure. But she is steady, resilient, more aware of air currents than any human-made instrument. She dips beneath a leaf for shelter as a burst of rain begins. Drops splash around her like small explosions, sending vibrations through the leaf above. Each drop could harm her, yet she waits with patience, her body still, her wings folded tight. The storm intensifies. Rain patters. Wind roars softly. The meadow bends beneath the weather's weight. Inside the hive, the bees sense the storm through vibrations traveling along the comb. Guards retreat inward. Nurses cluster around the brood. Ventilators slow their fanning. The entire hive shifts into a protective mode, a practiced choreography for weathering what comes. Our forager waits. Minutes pass. Her heart beats fast at first, then slows as she settles into the rhythm of the storm. Eventually, the rain eases. The wind calms. Light filters once more through the clouds. She lifts off carefully, her wings needing a moment to shake off the moisture. The world smells different now. Fresh, cool, washed. The flowers glisten with droplets that reflect the soft, returning light. Her flight home is slower, but steady. The hive welcomes her with warmth, shelter, and the comforting hum of thousands of wings. In nature, storms are not intrusions. They are renewals. The meadow will be greener tomorrow. The flowers will open brighter. The air will feel new. As you breathe deeply now, imagine the storm passing through your thoughts the same way, washing away tension, clearing space, leaving behind a gentle quiet. The bee survives by trusting the world around her. And tonight, we learn from that trust. Long before the bee arrives each morning, the meadow already remembers her. Every flower she visited yesterday holds the faintest traces of her passing, a tiny change in scent, a shifted petal, a remaining dust of pollen. These subtle marks become part of the meadow's memory, a living record of all the bees who have moved through its blossoms. When she flies over the grass, she is flying over paths carved not in soil, but in history. Generations of bees have circled these flowers, dipped into these nectar wells, brushed against these petals. Their wings have stirred the same air. Their shadows have passed across the same sunlit stems. The meadow does not forget this. It grows according to the bees. It blooms according to their rhythms. It shapes itself, season after season, around their gentle needs. A flower that relies on bees will bloom at the hour they are most active. A plant that needs cross-pollination will spread its blossoms across the wind in patterns designed to attract them. Even the scents of the meadow evolve, guided by what bees find irresistible. The bee does not know she is shaping the landscape. She only knows the next flower, the next breath of wind, the next patch of sunlight. But the meadow knows and responds. There is a quiet partnership here, one older than human memory, one so balanced it feels like a form of mutual recognition. As she glides across the field, the flowers seem to lean into her presence, not physically, but in rhythm, in timing, in expectation. The meadow anticipates her. Some blossoms open just as she passes, as though greeting her. Others release their richest scent at the precise moment she nears. It is not magic. It is adaptation woven through countless generations, a slow conversation between plant and pollinator. The meadow holds her story, and she contributes to it with every wing beat. As the day wears on, she moves through places that have felt thousands of wings before hers. Each flight writes another line into the meadow's long, quiet memory. This is how ecosystems endure, not through dominance, but through relationship, not through strength, but through delicate, repeated connection. As you breathe gently now, imagine the meadow remembering you as well, your footsteps on its soil, your presence in its quiet, your breath moving through its air. The bee belongs to the meadow, and in its memory, she never truly leaves. Adaptation is one of nature's most beautiful languages, a quiet poetry written not in words, but in survival, adjustment, and graceful response to change. For the bee, adaptation is a way of life. She adjusts to weather before it arrives. She shifts her flight paths as flowers bloom and fade. She alters her collection strategy based on nectar flow, temperature, and the needs of her hive. Nothing in her world is static. Nothing stays the same for long. And yet she moves through every shift with effortless composure. The meadow too adapts. After rain, it smells different. After heat, its blossoms open wider. After cold nights, it waits longer before offering nectar. The bee responds to each of these changes not with stress, but with intuition. Her body knows when to fly faster, when to slow, when to explore new areas, when to stay close to home. She does not resist the changing world. She flows with it. This is the poetry of adaptation. In spring, she finds abundant blossoms, soft pinks, bright yellows, early purples, each overflowing with nectar. She travels widely, tasting the diversity of the season. In summer, the heat intensifies. Some flowers dry, others bloom in bursts. She shifts her routine, adjusting to the hours when nectar is richest and the sun is gentlest. In autumn, blossoms grow scarce. She conserves energy, flying shorter distances, relying more on pollen stores. In winter, she stays inside the hive, where she vibrates her body alongside thousands of sisters to keep their colony warm. Even in stillness, she adapts, preserving energy, eating slowly, waiting for the world to awaken again. Adaptation is not a struggle for her. It is the natural rhythm of her existence. As humans, we often view change as disruption, something to resist, fear, or control. But the bee shows us another way, a way of adjusting gently, responding instead of reacting, flowing rather than forcing. As you breathe deeply now, imagine adapting in the same soft manner, not in abrupt shifts, but in small, steady adjustments that honor the pace of your own life. The bee does not rush through change. She moves with it, learns from it, survives because of it. In her tiny life, adaptation becomes poetry, a quiet, continuous unfolding that shapes her days and sustains her world. Intelligence in nature doesn't always look like thought. It doesn't always rise in words or decisions or logical sequences. Sometimes, intelligence is woven into instinct, a deep knowing shaped across millions of years, so perfectly refined that it appears effortless. The bee embodies this hidden intelligence. She knows when a flower's nectar is richest, not through analysis, but through a sensory awareness so nuanced it borders on intuition. She recognizes subtle changes in temperature, humidity, air pressure, and scent gradients. She can measure distance through the energy she expends. She can sense direction from polarized light, invisible to human eyes. None of this is conscious, yet none of it is accidental. Nature's intelligence is quiet, distributed, communal. It hums beneath the visible world like a soft undercurrent. In the hive, this intelligence grows even more intriguing. Thousands of bees behave as one body, shifting roles, balancing temperature, coordinating food stores, all without central control. A group of bees decides together when it's time to swarm. Another group decides which new queen should emerge. Another evaluates the health of the hive by scent alone. This is emergent intelligence, 1,000 small actions forming a single cohesive mind. Out in the meadow, the intelligence of the wild deepens. Flowers produce just enough nectar to lure pollinators. Plants bloom at the hours bees prefer. Scents shift to attract or repel depending on need. The entire ecosystem behaves like a living network, each species sensing, responding, adapting with a subtle clarity. Our forager participates in this network without thought. She reads the world as though reading a book written just for her. Every breeze a sentence, every bloom a paragraph, every scent a quiet instruction. This hidden intelligence is not loud, it is not dramatic, it is soft, rhythmic, and entirely in harmony with the pace of the earth. If you listen closely, you can feel its echo, that quiet knowing in your own body when something feels right or wrong, when a path calls to you gently, when your breath settles without instruction. As you breathe slowly now, imagine the hidden mind of the meadow, a gentle web of connections, each thread vibrating lightly with life, each tiny creature adding to the whole. In the bee's world, everything is connected by intelligence older than thought, and by observing it, we rediscover our own instinctive calm. A worker bee lives a life defined by rhythm, cooperation, and purpose, not because she seeks meaning, but because her existence is meaning itself. From the moment she emerges into the hive, she is embraced by motion, the hum of wings, the scent of wax, the warmth of thousands of bodies. She begins her life caring for brood, then moves to cleaning, then feeding, then guarding, then building, and finally, foraging. Her roles shift naturally with age, each phase preparing her for the next. She never questions her place. She never doubts her contribution. She moves forward with a simple certainty. Whatever I do now is enough. From her, the meadow learns patience. The hive learns balance. The world learns continuity. Her tasks are small, one grain of pollen carried, one drop of nectar gathered, one brood cell cleaned. Yet these tiny efforts build the hive's entire future. A worker bee doesn't compare herself to others. She doesn't envy those who fly sooner. She doesn't mourn the roles she leaves behind. She embraces change as though it were a gentle turn of a season, inevitable, natural, and quietly beautiful. Her life teaches us that purpose doesn't always come from grand gestures. It often grows in repetition, in devotion to small tasks, in simple daily cycles that shape the world in ways we rarely notice. When she becomes a forager, she risks her life with every flight. Predators, storms, fatigue, all could end her journey. Yet she flies anyway, not from courage, but from trust in the rhythm she was born into. There is something deeply soothing in imagining her path, steady, intentional, peaceful. Her work is not frantic. Her choices are not heavy. She does enough, not because she tries, but because she is. As you breathe slowly now, imagine taking your own life in the same soft measure, one small task at a time, one gentle moment at a time, letting purpose be something felt rather than forced. The worker bee shows us that life can be meaningful simply by being lived with quiet sincerity. To a bee, seasons are not concepts or calendar pages. They are sensations. They are shifts in temperature, scent, light, and sound. They are changes in the availability of flowers, the thickness of nectar, the color of the meadow. Spring is a rising breath. Winter's silence loosens, replaced by the soft hum of awakening. Blossoms open in tentative clusters, willow catkins, early fruit trees, fields of small purple blooms. The air tastes new. The world smells young again. For the bee, spring is abundance. Every flight brings discovery. Every landing brings reward. Summer is fullness. The meadow bursts into vibrant color, yellows, blues, reds, purples, each flower offering nectar warmed by long days of sun. The air hums constantly with wings. Nectar flows, honey grows. Autumn is transition. Flowers fade, the air cools, the sun lowers in the sky. She begins to travel shorter distances, conserving strength. Pollen, golden and nutritious, becomes more valuable than nectar. Every gathering becomes preparation for what's coming. Winter is stillness. She does not fly. She does not forage. The hive becomes her world, a warm, humming sanctuary where thousands cluster together, vibrating their wings to keep the brood alive. Food stores are rationed carefully. Movement slows. Through a bee's eyes, seasons flow, not as events, but as sensations that guide her life. She adapts without hesitation, accepts without resistance, lives within the rhythm of the earth itself. As you breathe gently now, imagine seasons flowing through you the same way, softly, naturally, without force. Moments of abundance, moments of transition, moments of rest. The bee does not expect spring to be eternal. She does not fight the arrival of winter. She trusts the planet's slow turning. Perhaps there is peace in that trust. Perhaps some part of us remembers how to live with the same calm acceptance. In the flow of seasons through her eyes, we glimpse a simpler rhythm, one that guides her with quiet wisdom and invites us to slow down with the world. The meadow is not a collection of isolated lives. It is a community, interwoven, interdependent, and quietly cooperative. Every species plays a role, and every role supports another. The bee glides through this network effortlessly. She does not realize she is a bridge between worlds, yet her movements connect plants, animals, soil, and sky. Birds follow the insects she stirs. Flowers rely on her for pollination. Small mammals eat the fruit she helps create. Foxes, deer, and countless others depend on those fruits and seeds. Even the smallest creatures benefit. Worms thrive in soil enriched by fallen petals and decaying plants. Fungi spread through roots supported by pollinated flowers. Bacteria break down organic matter, feeding the earth the bee walks upon. No species survives alone, not even the mighty oak, not even the silent stone. not even the seemingly self-contained hive. The cooperation is not intentional. It is natural, automatic, instinctive. The bee takes nothing more than nectar and pollen, yet she gives back seeds, fruits, forests, meadows. Her contribution is delicate but immense. Other species give in return. Birds disperse seeds. Plants produce nectar tailored to the bee's senses. Trees shelter beehives in their hollows. Streams provide moisture for cooling the hive in summer. This reciprocity forms a tapestry of life so interconnected that to disturb one thread would loosen many others. Yet the system remains resilient, not because it is strong, but because it is cooperative. As our bee moves from blossom to blossom, she participates in a choreography millions of years old. Her wings stir the air in ways butterflies respond to. Her landings adjust flower growth. Her presence signals abundance to predators and prey alike. The meadow is a quiet classroom, teaching cooperation without words. Each life understands its place, not through thought, but through rhythm. As you breathe gently now, imagine yourself part of that meadow, a single life moving within a larger harmony, supported by countless others, offering your own small contributions without needing to be reminded or praised. The quiet cooperation of species shows us something profound, that existence itself is a shared endeavor, and the smallest lives often hold the greatest influence. In a world that often pushes for multitasking, speed, and constant output, the bee lives differently. She focuses on one task at a time, fully, gently, beautifully. When she gathers nectar, she gathers nectar. When she warms the hive, she warms the hive. When she dances a message, she dances only that message. There is no half attention in her world, no fragmented focus, no hurried shifting between tasks. Her serenity comes from presence, from doing precisely what the moment asks of her. This single task devotion is not limiting, it is freeing. It allows her to move with purpose instead of pressure, clarity instead of chaos. She does not overthink the past or anticipate the future. She exists entirely in the act she performs. When she lands on a flower, her entire being becomes attuned to that blossom, the temperature of its petals, the richness of its nectar, the way its scent shifts with minute changes in wind. She is not thinking about the next flower. She is living fully in the now. As she builds wax, her movements slow into a sculptor's rhythm. As she fans her wings to regulate hive temperature, she becomes breath itself. As she tends larvae, she becomes gentleness incarnate. Her life teaches us that mastery is not about perfection, it is about presence. When you do one thing well, even a small thing, you create ripples of calm around you. A bee gathering a single drop of nectar is not merely completing a task. She is participating in the creation of future honey, future blossoms, future meadows. From one focused action comes entire landscapes. As you breathe slowly now, imagine doing a single task with the same serenity, letting yourself settle fully into one moment, one movement, one gentle focus. You don't need to solve everything. You don't need to carry the weight of every task at once. You just need to do the thing in front of you with presence. The bee shows us that life becomes peaceful not when we do more, but when we do what we're doing with calm, attentive care. Her world is built on tiny, intentional moments, and somehow those moments create harmony vast enough to sustain the meadow. Rest in the natural world does not arrive through permission. It arrives through rhythm, through the soft certainty that every creature, no matter how small, must eventually pause. For the bee, rest is not laziness. It is necessity. It is wisdom woven into the structure of her life. She cannot fly endlessly. Her wings would fray. Her muscles would fail. Her senses would dull. So, as the day cools and the flowers close, she listens to the world around her. The meadow exhales. The scents soften. The light deepens. And instinct whispers, "Enough for today." Inside the hive, rest is not stillness, it is gentleness. The bees lower their energy. Vibrations soften from steady hums into slow, warm murmurs. They cluster together, sharing heat, sharing breath, sharing presence. Even those who remain awake do so with quiet restraint. No frantic motion, no waste, just peaceful maintenance of their shared home. Rest for them is communal, shared, supported, and it is always temporary, enough to restore, enough to prepare, enough to greet tomorrow with calm purpose. As humans, we often resist rest. We postpone it, question it, label it a weakness or a pause in productivity. But the bee reminds us that rest is not a pause in purpose. It is part of purpose. The meadow rests each night. The flowers rest each season. The hive rests in cycles. Every living thing breathes in effort and breathes out recovery. As you inhale softly, imagine yourself aligning with that natural rhythm. The way the world slows at dusk, the way the air cools, the way quietness becomes a form of nourishment. The bee settles into the hive, content in the knowledge that she is given enough, not everything, simply enough. And now, she allows herself to be held by the hum of her sisters. Let this be your moment of gentle surrender, not to sleep yet, but to the idea of rest, to the concept that slowing down is natural, that stillness is healthy, that quiet is healing. Nature teaches rest not as an escape, but as a homecoming. And in that lesson, the bee leads us deeper into calm. Earlier tonight, beneath the petals of the meadow, we asked a simple question. What can a tiny life teach us about purpose? Now, after following our bee through the fullness of her day, her flights, her choices, her instincts, her connections, we return to that question with gentler eyes. Purpose, as it unfolds through her world, is not loud. It is not complex. It does not strain or demand attention. Purpose is a rhythm, a quiet alignment between who she is and what the world needs her to be. She gathers nectar not to achieve greatness, but because gathering is part of her nature. She builds wax not to create monuments, but to support her sisters. She dances not to shine, but to guide others gently. Her purpose is woven into her existence. She does not chase it, she inhabits it. And in doing so, she shapes the world far beyond her awareness. Flowers bloom because she visits them. Fruits grow because she carries pollen on her legs. The meadow thrives because she follows her simple loops through sunlight and shadow. Her purpose is not grand, but it is transformative. Maybe that is the quiet truth we needed to hear. That purpose does not always need to be searched for in distant places. Sometimes it rests in the small, steady acts we perform each day, the kindness we offer, the patience we extend, the presence we give. Perhaps purpose is not something we find, but something that grows through us when we live in gentle alignment with our nature. As the bee returns to her hive and the meadow darkens into blue, this question no longer feels heavy. It feels comforting, freeing, honest. Let it settle inside you like a soft feather. You do not need to chase meaning. You can move gently with your day. and purpose will unfold in your wake. The bee teaches us this without ever knowing she teaches it all. Night approaches the meadow the way a blanket drapes over a sleeping child. Slowly, lovingly, without urgency, colors dim into softer hues. The last glow of sunlight dissolves behind the hills, and the air cools into a comfortable, steady calm. The meadow begins to breathe differently. During the day, its breath is wide and warm, full of motion, sense, and sunlight. At night, its breath becomes narrow and cool, quiet, collected, peaceful. Flowers fold their petals into tight protective shapes. Grass blades curl slightly inward. Small insects retreat beneath leaves. The wind softens into a whisper that barely disturbs the surface of the field. Our bee has already returned home, tucked safely within the hive. But outside, the world she traveled through is settling into its own form of rest. The sounds change first. The bright hum of daytime insects becomes a low, steady background tone. Birdsong fades into silence, replaced by the distant croaks and chirps of nighttime creatures. Then the scents shift. The sweetness of nectar is replaced by the cool aroma of moist soil, the faint smell of dew forming on blades of grass. Then the light fades fully, leaving the meadow bathed in a gentle silver glow from the moon. This is the hour when time itself feels slower, when the world seems to exhale after a long day of photosynthesis, pollination, growth, and motion. Even the air feels thicker, calmer, more grounded. The meadow is not asleep. It is simply breathing differently. This breathing is a signal to every creature, whispering that the day's work is done, and it is time to soften, to let go, to rest. If you allow yourself, you might match your own breath to the meadow now. Slow, steady, without effort. Inhale like a field gathering cool night air. Exhale like a flower folding inward. The meadow does not worry about tomorrow. It does not replay the day. It does not anticipate the dawn. It simply transitions from one state to another, trusting that rest is part of its nature, just as activity is part of the day. As night deepens, the meadow becomes a sanctuary of quiet rhythm. And in that quiet, you are welcome to rest too. While the meadow grows still, the hive continues to hum, not loudly, not energetically, but with a low, steady murmur that feels almost like a purr. Inside those hexagonal walls, thousands of bees cluster together, forming a warm, breathing sphere. The temperature is carefully maintained. Even at night, even in cold seasons, the hive keeps itself alive through subtle vibrations. These nighttime vibrations are different from the daytime ones, softer, slower, more like the gentle rocking of a cradle than the bustling rhythm of a workplace. Our forager rests somewhere within this cluster, wings folded, body tucked against sisters, antennae touching the wax walls. Her muscles relax, her energy stores replenish, her heartbeat slows into a sleepy cadence. Nurses keep tending to the brood even at night, though their movements quiet. Guard bees remain near the entrance, but their watchfulness softens. Ventilating bees create a faint breeze, but the sound blends into the collective hum. Everything in the hive at night serves one purpose: preservation through rest. The scent inside is warm and comforting. Wax, honey, shared body heat, the faint trace of the queen's pheromones. The hive feels alive in a way that is peaceful rather than busy, like a gentle hearth glowing without flames, like a sleeping town, soft with dreams. Our bee is surrounded by connection, she is never alone here. Even in rest, she is part of a whole, supported by thousands of quiet wings. The hive murmurs like a lullaby, each vibration a reminder that rest is safe, that warmth is shared, that purpose does not vanish when the day ends. As you breathe slowly now, imagine hearing that low hum, steady, warm, enveloping. Let it settle around you the way darkness settles around the hive. Let it cradle you the way thousands of tiny bodies cradle each other. This nighttime murmur is the hive's way of saying, "You've done enough today. Rest now. We will keep you warm." In the quiet companionship of the hive, our bee sleeps deeply, held by the rhythm of her world. Every day in a bee's life ends the same way, not with a dramatic closure, but with a soft, natural easing into stillness. Inside the hive, the warmth holds steady. The hum quiets into a gentle whisper. The air becomes thick with calm. Our forager curls herself into a comfortable position, her antennae resting lightly along her body. She feels the faint tremors of the hive, its heartbeat, and lets it guide her into rest. There is no concept of tomorrow, no list of tasks, no anticipation, only this moment. The rhythm of her day is complete. The morning's first light, the midday's abundance, the evening's gentle return, the hive's embrace at nightfall. For her, this is enough. Enough purpose, enough motion, enough life. As she drifts into her version of sleep, the darkness around her feels soft and protective. Her wings, tired from hundreds of tiny flights, relax fully. Her muscles release their tension. Her breathing, quiet and subtle, slows into a peaceful cadence. The hive holds her. The wax walls cradle her. The warmth surrounds her. The day ends not with finality, but with softness. Outside, the meadow is still. The moon casts a faint silver glow across the landscape. Flowers rest, grass rests, wind rests. Everything that moved today now finds its own way of settling. There is beauty in such simple closure, a reminder that endings do not need to be abrupt or heavy. They can be gentle, gradual, kind. As you breathe deeply now, imagine releasing the day the same way the bee releases hers, not dropping it suddenly, but letting it slip from your shoulders, one soft moment at a time. Her world teaches us that life can pause without losing meaning, that stillness is not empty, that rest is not the opposite of purpose, but part of it. In the softest ending to her simple day, the bee finds peace. And in watching her, perhaps you can find some too. Night settles over the meadow like a soft quilt, stitched with stars, threaded with moonlight, and edged with the quiet patience of the earth. With each passing minute, the world loses another layer of noise, until only the most peaceful sounds remain. The faint chirr of nighttime insects, the slow rustle of grass, the whisper of cool air drifting through leaves. The meadow becomes a night garden, and it holds its peace with tender devotion. The flowers that glowed in daylight now rest with folded petals. Their scents soften into faint traces, as though exhaling after a long, sunlit performance. Dew begins to gather slowly, forming tiny beads along stems and blades, tiny pieces of glass catching the moon's silver shine. Small nighttime creatures emerge, careful, quiet, gentle. Moths drift like drifting pieces of shadow. A beetle taps quietly across a leaf. A field mouse scurries through the grass with sound so soft it barely exists. But even these creatures respect the stillness of the meadow. They move calmly, contributing to the nighttime rhythm rather than disturbing it. Our bee sleeps inside the hive, unaware of the world outside, yet still held by the garden's peace. The meadow protects her, just as it protects every creature who has worked beneath its sun. It offers silence, it offers coolness, it offers the sense that everything has paused in harmony. Look across the landscape. Nothing presses forward. Nothing demands attention. Nothing insists on urgency. The night garden simply is, content within its own serenity. As you breathe slowly now, imagine lying at the edge of this meadow, feeling the coolness of the air brushing against your skin. Imagine the scents, earthy, clean, gentle. Imagine the sounds, soft, steady, rhythmic. The quiet is never empty. It is full of rest. The world has slowed to match your breath. The meadow is holding its peace and inviting you to hold yours too. Nature repeats itself, but never in exactly the same way. The sun rises, the sun sets, flowers open, flowers close, seasons warm, seasons cool, bees fly, bees rest. This repetition is not monotony, it is comfort. It is the predictable rhythm that allows life to flourish. Our bee lives entirely within these cycles. She does not question them. She does not resist them. She moves with the gentle loops of the natural world, waking when light comes, working when flowers bloom, resting when the day fades. Each day, she performs similar actions. A familiar flight path here, a blossom visited there, a soft return home in the evening. And yet every day carries its own small variations, a different breeze, a new blossom opening, a shift in the sunlight's color. Repetition gives her life shape. Variation gives it texture. Humans often fear repetition, imagining it as stagnation. But the bee reveals a quieter truth, that rhythms can be soothing, anchoring, nourishing. As the meadow cycles through its patterns, everything aligns. Birds begin and end their songs on schedule. Flowers follow their own timetables of blooming. The hive hums its familiar sequences of work and rest. This repetition is a kind of lullaby. It tells every creature, you are part of something continuous. You are not required to reinvent yourself each day. Tonight, as you sink deeper into quiet, imagine your breath following nature's rhythm, steady, looping, predictable, comforting. Inhale, like dawn spreading its first light. Exhale, like dusk settling over a tired meadow. Inhale, the rising warmth of the day. Exhale, the cooling calm of night. The gentle repetition of nature's cycles mirrors the repetition of your breath. And within that familiar pattern, your body finds safety, the same safety the bee finds in the consistent hum of her hive, the same comfort the meadow finds in the turning of its seasons. Let your breath become that rhythm now, quiet, soft, calming. Let the night settle into your thoughts with the same ease as petals closing. Let repetition carry you gently towards sleep. The hive is warm. The meadow is calm. The night is still. Everything in the bee's world has softened into gentle shapes, gentle sounds, gentle movements, creating a space where she can sleep without fear. In nature, safety is rare and precious. But tonight, the world is quiet enough for her to drift. The hive holds her like a cradle. Wax walls insulate her from cold. Sisters surround her with shared warmth. The queen's pheromones weave a sense of unity through the darkness. All of it combines into a feeling of security so deep that her small body relaxes completely. Her wings loosen. Her antennae soften. Her muscles settle. She drifts because she is safe. Outside, the meadow protects her too. The tall grasses sway in slow, hypnotic arcs. The air carries no harsh winds. The moonlight is soft and reassuring. Every creature that might disturb her is either asleep or moving so gently that they become part of the night's lullaby. And this sense of safety is not just physical. It is woven into the rhythms of her life. She knows she has done enough today. She knows the hive is whole. She knows the meadow will bloom again tomorrow. Humans rarely feel this kind of safety. Our thoughts wander, our worries surface, our minds rehearse tomorrows that haven't yet arrived. But you too deserve a world soft enough to drift. A world where your breath deepens, your shoulders loosen, your thoughts quiet. Tonight, imagine sinking into that world. A place where the air is gentle, the sounds are soothing, and nothing needs your attention right now. You can drift because the moment is safe. You can rest because the world can hold itself for a while. You can soften because your body knows how to relax in the presence of calm. Feel the weight in your limbs. Feel your breath warming the air around you. Feel your thoughts slowing to match the quiet rhythm of the hive. The bee sleeps in her world of safety. And tonight, that world extends to you. The meadow now lies fully under the embrace of night. Stars shimmer above like scattered grains of pollen. Moonlight drapes over the field in long, gentle strokes. Every blade of grass, every petal, every shadowed shape becomes part of a single, soothing landscape. The world around the hive has entered complete stillness. The breeze no longer stirs the grass. The petals no longer move. Even the distant sounds of nighttime life fall into a deeper, slower cadence. It is the hour when the earth itself feels sleepy. The meadow seems to exhale, a soft, settling sigh that drifts across the land and makes everything feel hushed. This embrace is not a blanket of darkness. It is a blanket of comfort, of protection, of peaceful silence. The flowers sleep without fear of the coming day. The grasses lie relaxed. Small animals curl into restful shapes within their shelters. There is no resistance, no urgency, only the gentle acceptance of night. Inside the hive, our bee is held in this embrace too. Though she cannot see the stars or the moonlight, she feels the coolness of night through the wax walls. She feels the softening of vibrations. She feels the hive breathing slow and deep. Everything is calm. Everything is quiet. Everything is ready for rest. As you breathe slowly now, imagine the meadow wrapping you in the same embrace, cool air brushing your skin, soft shadows settling around you, the steady presence of earth beneath you. Let your breath fall into the rhythm of this nighttime world. Let your mind settle the way the petals settle. Let yourself be held. Night does not ask anything of you. It only offers rest. Inside this embrace, you become part of the quiet too, part of the meadow's stillness, part of the hive's slowness, part of the peaceful world settling into sleep. When the journey of the bee has carried us from dawn's first glimmer to the deep hush of night, through flowers and sunlight, through rhythm and rest, we have watched her live a simple, meaningful life, one guided entirely by the quiet intelligence of nature. Now, as the hive hums softly around her and the meadow lies silent under the stars, her world settles into its final rhythm of the night. Stillness. The kind of stillness that is not empty, but full of connection, of purpose lived gently, of cycles honored, of rest earned. Our bee is asleep, held safely within the wax walls she helped build, surrounded by the warmth of sisters who breathe in unison. Her wings, tired from hundreds of tiny journeys, rest folded against her body. Her antennae soften into quiet curves. Her heart beats slow, steady, calm. And the world outside whispers its lullaby, the faint rustle of grass, the distant chirr of a nighttime insect, the soft exhale of the wind settling for the night. Everything flows through the wild. Everything moves in cycles. Everything finds its rhythm, and you too are part of that rhythm now. Take a slow breath. Feel it travel through you like the warmth that travels through the hive. Exhale gently. Let your breath join the quiet world surrounding you. You have followed the bee through her simple life, her flights, her work, her unity with the meadow. You have witnessed how small moments become meaning, how instinct becomes purpose, how rest becomes renewal. Now let those lessons settle into your thoughts like pollen drifting onto petals. Let them soften the spaces inside you that still hold tension. Let them calm whatever parts of you are still awake. The night invites you to surrender to stillness, to become part of the hush, to sleep in the same quiet motion that holds the wild together. You do not need to try. You do not need to think. You do not need to chase rest. Rest is already here, soft, steady, waiting. The meadow sleeps, the hive sleeps, the bee sleeps, and now you may drift into sleep as well, guided by the gentle rhythm of the earth, held by the quiet wild, carried into dreams by the soft pulse of nature. Everything flows through the wild. Sleep in that motion.